Shut up and sit down.
Alright guys, welcome to Bigmeks Workshop and Paint Studio, and we're still working on the month of Nurgle. And this Monday's video is a little bit of something different. This is a old Forge Fiend from from the bits box basically, just stuff that I collected a long time ago and I was converting it. What we're going to do is we're going to cover a bit of the old green stuff in, because you can't have a month of Nurgle without putting some Nurgle on some stuff. So what I'm going to do here is mark off the bits that I don't want in there. So a lot of people, what they do is they'll put Nurgle straight onto the armour and just stab it with a pin. And you can do that, but guys, it looks crap. Don't do that. Shut up, Andy. It looks... I'll stab you with a pin in a minute. It just looks like green stuff that you've stabbed with a pin. So what I'm doing is marking these out. Then I go over to the other desk, get the Dremel. Spend quite a bit of time cutting out the bits where I want the green stuff, because I want it to be on the inside, not stuck onto the armour. And that's why I was pointing out the neck at the beginning of this video, because I want to be able to get my fingers in there to push the green stuff through. What we're going to do is we're going to build this up in steps. So I've got a nice wad of green stuff that I've folded over so it's thick enough. Push that in, and then we're going to push it. I swear, Andy, piss off. I'm going to push that through so it's starting to seep through the holes. Andy's turning everything I say into something dirty. Right, let me crack on with the video now. Right, so we're going to push that through, but we're also going to make sure the edges of it bond on the inside. This is going to be the basis for the skin and the innards of the Forge Fiend. Obviously, okay, it looks like I've stuck a bunch of green stuff on, but now what we're going to do is let that set a little bit for about half an hour. We're going to get a rubber sculpting tool and start embedding and pushing that back through itself, and what it'll do is it will make an indentation in there, and that gives us a nice hollow surface and a background to work with, and we can start piling in the other details that we want to do. You want to be careful, even though you've left this for like an hour or so. You don't want to be stabbing at it with the sculpting tool, because it will, go through the other side. You'll have to re-sculpt it. Just putting a little bit of pressure on it and then pulling it towards the edges so it connects with everything and makes a nice solid bond. You don't want that coming away when you're putting other things in either. So just taking your time, pushing that into the edges and making sure it's nice and deep. I'm obviously going to do both sides like this, and as you can see we're starting to get a nice big recess, and the green stuff that's left around those edges is already starting to look like flesh underneath the armour. It's really up to you on where you take the bits off your kit. You could do this for tanks as well. Now, I don't know how many people already watch the channel know how to do this one, but we're going to make some intestines here, and all we're going to do is roll up a bunch of green stuff. It's pretty simple stuff. Just roll that up, and using a comb, but remember you're going to wet the comb completely so the hair stays in between the bits of it. And gently roll that over the top of it, and what that'll do is it'll make impressions onto the piping or onto the intestines. But this technique can also be used for making pipes, maggots and other random things. But at the moment we're just going to be doing some intestines, and what you'll end up with is sometimes it looks a bit sharp, but as you move this bit around and twist it, it starts to puff up and look more like intestines and a bit softer. Now I noticed the shoulder was supposed to have armour on it, but decided to take that off. I was going to just carry on this Nurgle effect. I'm going to pull the skin later on from the shoulder to the back. You'll see that in a bit. It's worth staying on this video. I know it's going to be a pretty long one, but the effects we're going to have at the end are worth staying for. This is generally just me filling in that gap because I need a template to work with. Don't try and do all your green stuff in at once. And what I've done there is get some more long strips, twist them ever so slightly for a muscle texture. Basically make your sausages and then you're pinching the ends together, twist those around, And this other bit that I'm poking in now is just random bits of green stuff to be made into organ shapes. So paint those in pinks, purples, greens, yellows, whatever you want, but they add a bit of shape. At the end of this video, knowing now, I probably went a bit too hard on the skin, but really depends how you sculpt it. But a lot of this should be showing through. Just really depends on where you've put everything else, to be honest. There's no 100% right way to do this or wrong way to do it. It's a matter of preference. Obviously we're poking that in gently and rubbing it around because we don't want the front to bond to it, we want the back to stick to it. Now we're going to take a bit of our intestines and start working those in. Most of these pieces have been left for like 20 minutes to half an hour to start setting, so they're not quite as sticky, but you still need to keep all your tools wet. And you can see we're filling in the inside of this creature now, and that will really add a lot of layer and a lot more detail to it, rather than just sticking something on. Just little steps. I've got it just sat at my desk while I'm doing Thursday's video, and I'm just adding little bits to it here and there. May carry this green stuff series on that I'm doing, because I can work on things at the side of my desk. I might come back to him, put some bells on him and some other random things. Really go to town with the Nurgle. Now, what I'm doing here is the same way we did the pipes and the guts, but we're making a long strip and then we're pushing down slightly on it with the ruler, which is coated with Vaseline so it doesn't stick. That's because we're going to make some ribs now to start building up a rib cage for it, and I didn't want a perfectly round rib that doesn't quite look right. I'm measuring it up roughly with the size of the blade, so I know roughly where I'm starting. Then what I'm going to do is lay those in there, which is actually really fiddly. So remember to keep all your tools wet while doing this, otherwise everything will stick. You'll be pulling bits off all over the place. And there's no need to rush, just give it plenty of drying time in between. Once you've got this to bond to the inside, you can use your finger to rub it down into the right shape that you want. I also decided on this other side, I didn't want it looking too much like the other one, so I put another wad of green stuff as an organ in there and cut the legs off a Nurgle in and popped him in there, so it's coming out like the organs of the Forge Fiend. Extra detail, somewhat random, you know. I thought, yeah, why not? As you can see, I drilled out the hole for the top of that thing as well, because I'm going to have a big horn or something else coming through there. Don't forget to use your Vaseline or petroleum jelly, and what I've got here is I'm using a plastic bag and I'm coating the whole thing with Vaseline, because that way when I squash something to it, it's not going to stick, but because it's on a plastic bag I can pick that up and I can manipulate it from the back, twisting it, because now we're going to start working on the flesh. All my tools are either wet or covered in Vaseline to stop things sticking when you don't want them to. I mean, it's just practice with green stuff. I think when everyone starts off with green stuff, it's a pain to use, but a bit of time and effort, and it comes out quite well. Now what we're doing is measuring up this side, like the green stuff size in comparison to the Forge Fiend, and I want that to be quite a smooth surface to start off with. Don't want any fingerprints or anything in there, so that's why there's Vaseline on the ruler. It's a good way to get a really smooth flat surface. You can't leave fingerprints off the ruler, so it works out kind of well. There's a myriad of random tools you can use for this, but this is just the way I like to do it.
Important to remember, you don't need specific tools, you can use whatever's appropriate.
Yeah, Andy's shouting from the other room saying you don't need specific tools, you can use whatever you've got to hand really, as long as they're wet or got Vaseline on them, they won't stick. You can use anything for sculpting. Like this bit here, this is a bit of plastic art, plastic piping. You could even use a lolly stick, you know, the hollow ones. What we're going to do is put Vaseline on the inside and around the edge of that and just twist it into there, and what that'll do is it'll pull out that entire circle. because we're going to make a bunch of circles and a bunch of holes into this flesh rather than putting it on the model then trying to make the holes. And the plastic card piping comes in loads of different shapes and sizes, so you can really go to town on this. And that's just a bunch of variable sizes. And once you've done that, what you'll end up with is something that looks like the flesh is tearing and bending. Now I'm just using a sculpting tool to neaten up any of those rough edges where it's frayed a bit, because I wanted it to look smooth rather than torn, because when we put it on and we manipulate it, you'll be able to tear it and muck about with it as well. So now we've got it the right size and it's been given a little while to dry. You can see you can manipulate it using the bag, so it's not sticking to anything. We know that's going to fit in there. It's just a case of picking that off there. You can see how easy that is once you put Vaseline on and it's set a bit. Now we're going to push that and try and get it underneath the armour, all the way around the edges. That's the bond we're going to use. We're going to start bonding it at the top, so that way when it's bonded at the top and we pull on it, we're pulling it down so it looks like it's being pulled around the chest and the torso, and that's going to just add more to the dimensions and make it look a little bit more natural. And this bit is very fiddly, guys, but you know, just keep your tools wet and be patient. I wish I'd put a few more holes in it or made a few of the holes bigger so we could see more of the underwork we've done, but you know, this is a Monday video. It's I'm trying to get it out. I'm still recording it on Monday, so I was trying to get this done this morning so I can get back on with Thursday's video. Now at this point, once that's bonded at the top, you just keep playing around with it and playing around with it until you're happy with it. Try not to let any of it go over the armour. Well, for the Forge Fiend, possibly not, and you can see that's already starting to add a lot more gore and dimensions, but as green stuff sets, it puffs up a little bit. So what I have to keep doing is putting Vaseline on my finger and rubbing that round, so it becomes the chest shape again. Otherwise it looks a little bit off. But I'm not done here. I'm still going to continue manipulating it with other tools and random bits and pieces. You really just want to work it in so it gets thinner in spaces now, and all those holes you've already pre-made, you can just start stretching those with tools so they look more natural. Well, not that anything's natural about Nurgle. And as you can see, that's just cutting in, pulling around with tools and stretching it out. And I mean, it's come out okay. I wish I'd left more space for the intestines, but what I can do is roll up some intestines in the next video, push those in so they're hanging out. And I'll probably come back to this one because it's just sat on the desk. I'm going to get him finished for the Death Guard army. And like I was saying, I'll probably do some tutorials on making bells and horns and other random stuff for Nurgle and try and get him finished for you guys. So that's our Monday video. I hope you liked it. Hit like, leave a comment if you've got any questions, and subscribe. Don't forget to share with your friends. I'll see you guys on Thursday.